Yeah.
Blog Talk Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, it seems we have a problem. I would like to introduce
Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Investigations Team.
Everything I dreamed is coming true.
And welcome to another edition of Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Radio. Tonight is going to be a show on the Philadelphia phenomenon and the Philadelphia experiment and giant humans that we found. And on the phone we have King Gary, also known as Tim.
And Archangel, also known as Brent.
And Becky.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Oh man, tired. Yeah, I know you guys have probably all watched the Super Bowl.
No, I didn't actually.
Really? My team didn't win, but
I called it.
Yeah, but they did. Yep. Anyway, now that threw us off. We're going to start with a little bit of news. Fighter pilots are put on red alert for UFO drama over Germany that emerged yesterday. Air traffic controllers tracked a mystery object speeding across the entire country. Investigators have checked and excluded conventional aircraft, weather balloons, and freak atmospheric conditions. Axel Raab of Germany's Air Traffic Safety Office, the DFS, said they've ruled out all conventional possibilities and it's a mystery. There are dozens of reports of this object as it flew across southern Germany on January 19th. It vanished above the area used by U.S. troops on training exercises. To me it sounds like maybe a government UFO. Maybe. What do you think, Brent?
Yeah, it sounds like that.
Let's see, what else do I have? The Hubble telescope. NASA wants the public to determine where in the universe the Hubble telescope will aim at next. What they have basically is they have a breakdown of 6 different areas that they're thinking of choosing, and they're going to have the public, I guess, have some kind of contest and have a vote where everyone gets the most votes. They're going to start taking pictures of, and the people that vote are going to be entered into a drawing to receive one of 100 copies of wherever they aim at, I guess. Kind of cool. That is pretty cool. Yeah. The Danish Air Force opened its UFO archives, providing information on over 15,000 UFO sightings and extraterrestrial phenomena. UFO archives are now readily available to the public, detailing sightings from over the last 30 years. The Danish Air Force published the archive online yesterday because it felt that there was nothing secret in the files. The Air Force said that most of the sightings remained unidentified because the details were not precise enough. However, some of the reports contained enough descriptions to rule out that UFOs were aircraft, weather phenomenon, and paper lanterns. I don't know what a paper lantern means, what that would be, but Most were centered over Denmark and over Greenland, it says. And on January 5th, 1981, at 12:50, a flaming square disc was seen approximately 25 degrees over the frozen land near the Thule Air Force Base. And apparently, the Americans denied the story, and they have a UFO report saying it was a UFO, so you tell me. But in other news, scientists have come a bit closer to achieving the Star Trek feat phenomenon of teleportation. Basically what they did is they teleported information between atoms from the distance of a meter and then a yard, which is actually pretty cool. And they said that Christopher Monroe and of the Joint Quantum Institute of the University of Maryland led the effort. He's been on TV a couple of times. I thought that was kind of neat. Something that pretty much pissed me off is they had a Virgin Mary painting in Chicago that was about 250 years old, and some kind of vandal spray painted 666 on it, and I don't know. What did you say?
It pretty much just ruined the hell out of it.
It's me.
That's mean.
She has it.
Does that kind of stuff piss you off too, Brett?
Yeah.
And then for the team news, I don't know. We don't really have a whole lot going on right now. We'll just for this week. We're still going over some video evidence, but we're pretty much done with our stuff from our last trip.
Exactly. Nearly done.
What were you saying?
I said we're nearly done.
I thought you said easily done.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're going to get started on tonight's topic. And the first topic of tonight is going to be giant humans and giant life forms in general that we found on Earth. You want to give a little introduction to this, Tim?
Okay, well, there's been supposedly sightings and reports of giant humans throughout human history, but what it is there was once believed to have been people that were over 15 feet tall that lived. They were like a subspecies of human, like Neanderthals and stuff like that. But they've been spotted all throughout the world, mainly in North America and South America. And we're just going to go over a little bit of the, evidence and stuff as to help support that they're real. Jared?
What were you saying?
Oh, no, I was just saying, yeah, your turn.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
And giant humans in the past. Right now, I got a bunch of stories of different things that they found and some theories behind it, and I'm going to talk about those. But first, I am going to talk about a couple of the famous stories. Right now, I have kind of a lot of them. So I'll get started on these. In the late 1950s, during a road construction in the Euphrates Valley of the southeast Turkey, tombs containing the remains of giants were uncovered. At the sites, the leg bones were measured to be 120 centimeters, which is 47 inches. And the fossil museum that has it now actually has the human femur on display, and it stood 16 feet tall, just the femur. And
wow.
One second, I lost my place real quick. Oh yeah. And anyways, and then they said that they actually took some enamel from one of the teeth that they found, and they tried to carbon date it, and it only went back 250 years ago. Actually, it was in the 1800s that whoever it was alive.
Wow, that's kind of creepy.
And most of these giants, yeah, it's pretty cool. But most of these giants, though, that we found are actually in Ohio, the Ohio-Wisconsin area. But they're also found all over, mainly the United States, and like I was saying, the Euphrates River area, which is kind of weird.
That is weird.
But in Ohio in 1883, gigantic skeletons with high cheekbones, powerful jaws, and massive frames, peculiar to that of the red man, which is basically an Indian, who left these as only the record to show the form of clue to the history of the past ages, which means basically they buried their dead separate from these people. Like there's a sub-race of Indians that I guess they dealt with. I thought it was kind of cool.
So they really have fossils of these giant people then, is what you're saying?
Yeah. They're in
That's
some
pretty
museums.
amazing.
They're not really in the United States a lot. They're mostly overseas. But there is a couple of museums around here that have them.
That's pretty cool though.
I thought it was
Yeah, I don't know much about, stories about giants other than mythology and stuff like that. And I'm not aware of any modern accounts or anything, so I don't know much about them.
Yeah, I just know if I seen a 15-foot person, I'd be scared.
Pretty good to run, girly boy.
But anyways, the Marion County area of Ohio actually is the one that I'm trying to focus on right now, mainly that general area. But 3 skeletons were found at the mouth of the Paw Creek many years later after the last one I was telling you about. And while Nim Satterford was digging, I guess, at a bridge foundation, they found at the lower end of the Buffalo Wallow, which is like a little creek-looking thing, they thought that they found a very old tomb, perhaps thousands of years old. They said that there were skeletons exposed to the weather for a few days, and the bones actually turned black and crumbled. But they took pictures of these, I'm guessing. And they said what they actually did is on this tomb thing that they found, there was a map. And they followed this map, actually led to a graveyard of 15 of these giants. And it says each one of the bodies was 8 feet long, and they were supposedly the last of their kind in the general area.
Wow. That's cool though, especially if you know they lived with more than one and tries to so it goes to prove they have some kind of intelligence too.
In 1902, sorry, I'm in chronological order here. I'm going closer to today.
Yeah.
They said that in 1882 that one skeleton was unearthed with a rifle actually in its hand, and it was 8 feet tall, and which means whatever it was living in the 1800s, like a trapper style. And it said along with them there was 2 other ones that were 7 feet, and I guess what they were assuming was it was either his family or something similar to that. So whatever they are, basically, whoever they are, they live normal lives like normal people. They're just really big, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Well, there are some people over 7 feet tall that were, they're actually alive.
Yeah.
They're basketball players.
Yeah, like Shaq. And I know the world's tallest man lives in Russia.
There's a Asian guy who's really, really tall. I don't know if he's 8 feet but I'm pretty sure he's over 7.
Oh, just that young guy.
I don't remember his name, but I know he's Asian and he's a really big guy.
Yeah, I know there's some Asian basketball player who's like a giant.
It's a monster! Kill it! Kill it! Kill it!
Anyways, in 1888, they said that there's mounds that they unearthed again, which was, I'd like to point out that they're either found in burial mounds or in tombs. And they said that whatever these tombs are, they're not really Christian. And it said, anyways, they're doing their archaeological find near the Presbyterian Church, which was appeared to have no collection with the burial places of the Indians. Among the human bones found in the mounds were some belonging to men of gigantic stature. Some of these skulls were sufficient capacity to admit the head of an ordinary man. The jawbones that might have fitted over the face with equal facility. The other bones were proportionately large. The burying ground referred to contained about 4 acres of these bodies. And it said it actually, they said that they had a wooden shield and whatever it was, they had an oblong square tomb. And they said that whatever it was, it said that they didn't give them a Christian burial, which means they're probably pagan or whatever. So,
yeah. Well, still, if they're burying them in tombs and stuff, it proves they had some kind of their own religion, and they were pretty smart though.
You think that they could have their own religion, Brent?
Sure.
But they said that there was a guy who lived with the Indians for 14 years in 1858, and he said he actually lived with one of these Indians. And he said basically the language and traditions were the same, and he actually offered some of his people's traditions to the Indians, which started living with them. And he said that he came to start this tribe. He came at the start of the tribe, basically, and it said that basically he started by trading with these people, and it said that he's part of a black-bearded race is what their record said. And they said that there's also a red-bearded race, which I'm guessing is probably the newer Indians, and it said that they killed off all the Blackbeards, is what they called them, in some kind of war. I know this is getting hard to...
Sounds like pirates.
Yeah. Yep.
That's really weird, though, cause especially if they, like, have red beards and stuff, because, you know, you hear that mostly coming from, like, Northern Europe and England and stuff area.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're mainly people with blue eyes and red hair and stuff. Not Native Americans. They usually have black hair and brown eyes.
Well, in 1977, over in Ohio again, there was a story of a giant Indian who was actually shot in the back of the head by a pioneer in 1877. And they said he was buried in a certain area, and I guess archaeologists took one of their little machines and looked in the ground, and he really was buried there. I don't know if that's probably illegal.
Did they actually dig him up, though?
Yeah, they actually dug him up or whatever. But, yeah, well, do you think that there's some kind of meaning behind these tombs like the Egyptians had, or... Because they said that they're always in like a rectangular oblong-looking shape.
Well, you know, maybe, like, because I know certain religions, they have, like, religions and things like that in folklore, they have, like, certain meanings for squares and stuff, you know? So maybe whatever their religion was, maybe it was sacred to them, or maybe they were buried in a certain way facing, like, east or west, or, like some Vikings and pagans like that used to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's cool that they have tombs. I never knew that.
You think that there's a separating difference between the tombs and the burial mounds, or you think they're just the same race, or?
I don't know. It could be the same race.
Yeah,
because I know, like they were saying, there's a Redbeard and a Blackbeard tribe is what they were saying.
Yeah, so maybe they're like the same race of people, but just different religions or something like that.
I'm assuming it's probably just like the American Indians or the Native Americans is what I'm just guessing.
Yeah, hard to say.
But while I'm on topic, when Westchester Bishop was digging a cellar in the Asha Hill, sorry about this, I'm really bad with pronouncing some of these weird city names. Anyways, he was digging the cellar and he came across a skeleton, the bones of which were removed carefully by Dr. Kirkpatrick, and from his measurements, the height of the man that they found was 8.5 feet tall. It's possible that these were the bones of a big Indian of whom the Indians in the area told him his name was Jackson. I know the Bible says that people lived to be like 15 feet tall and stuff back in their day, because it said that they lived to be 200 or 300 years old.
Well, but look at Goliath in the Bible. They said,
I think I read he was only around 9 feet.
Yeah, he was about 9. Yeah, they said like 8, 10, 9 feet tall.
9.5 feet.
You could just shut your big yapper!
But yeah, anyways, Goliath was supposed to be one of the biggest people of all time.
Man.
I know there was someone else.
We have somebody right now that is asking for our callers on the line that if we would talk a little bit about some of the more recent finds. Actually, last year, Monster Quest actually took a trip and undug one of these bodies. It hasn't been on TV yet, but basically what happened is they undug one of these bodies and they put it in a Connecticut museum for one of the first times that they've unearthed almost a full skeleton. Because most of the time they only find a small proportion of these bodies, but this time, I guess it was last year, the one before, they actually found like 90% of the body, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool, because then they can go to solidify that it's real.
And
Well, because I know, what was it, back in World War II, there was a German, German soldiers they called Hercules, because he was, over 8 feet tall also. So it's not unusual for humans to grow that big. It is unusual, but it's not, out of the realm of possibility.
But I know what was that guy? Can you explain about the guy that we seen on TV that one time, Tim, that we were watching?
Which guy?
That one guy who was really tall and went on the radio in the 20s or 30s.
Oh, there was some, I don't know a whole lot about him, but there was a guy in the 1930s and early 40s. He was 19 years old and he was 8-something. But yeah, he was a really big freak of his day.
Did you say he ate bones?
What?
He ate bones?
No. I said he's a freak of his day, but he used to tell nice things, and he was actually really rich because people used to pay just to see him. So he was it was a self-proclaimed freak show, I guess you'd say. But yeah, all I know is he was the tallest man of the 1930s.
Now, have you heard about that, Albran, or?
No. I didn't really hear about that.
Yeah, I know they said he went to Madison Square Garden. I mean, there were thousands of people waiting to pay to see him. Kind of scary.
Gary? Who's Gary?
Well, I said kind of scary.
Oh, I was gonna say, is there someone named Gary on?
If you're in the Madison Square Garden in the very center, people are just screaming at you and wanting to see you. That'd be kind of scary.
Well, here's a good point I forgot to point out. They said that some of these people that they found actually had double teeth. I guess you could say 2 rows of teeth instead of 1. And they said the jawbone would actually extend farther than the average person. And they said that the common burial ground with these people was actually deeper than the normal. And they said that they actually had boulders and stone covering these guys' tombs and crypts, they're trying to protect them.
Well, that's pretty neat.
I don't know if it's some kind of warrior or king of some sort or what the deal is, or if it's just a dangerous person.
Maybe the tombs were for the more important people, so.
It could be
I know they said some of them had weapons and stuff. The Lake Erie Islands, right now I'm going to talk a little bit of things out of the Euphrates and out of Ohio.
No.
Here's a couple of random little cases. A large quantity of human bones was actually discovered in a fissure of limestone near the United States Coast Guard lighthouse by the Lake Erie Islands. A crude tomb of blackstone slabs, a formation not known on the island, was found many years ago beneath the roots of a huge stump. 8 of these skeletons were found, and one measured 7 feet in height, and the other ones measured 13 feet in height. Damn. Which is actually some of the biggest ones they've actually found. Besides the one I'm going to mention a little bit later.
Yeah, that one's crazy.
Yeah, Brent, I like that one.
That's seriously insane. But yeah, they don't know about it yet. So.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
And he really loved that soundboard.
Yeah. Well, the soundboard's a little slow tonight because I'm doing a little bit of my little studying as I go along.
Yeah, I know a little bit about the topic. I don't know a whole lot, though.
In New York, Buffalo, Turner's history book, which is a famous book from the 1792, I was guessing 1790s, they said that he actually had reports of 7 and 8 foot tall skeletons that were found and unearthed in the Orleans County, and they had flat top skulls. And they said that they thought that they were Neanderthals when they first found them, except for the skulls were completely flat instead of round, which means they had weird brain cavities.
That is kind of weird.
You could just imagine what that would look like. But on a better note, another one in Ohio, they said among normal-sized skeletons they found in some of these mounds and graveyards, they actually found some more of these giant bones, and they said that they actually had the double jaws again. They said these jaws were actually big enough to fit over the head of a normal man, and they said that this guy was actually put in the graveyard for cannibalism, is what the tombstone read when they actually tried to read it. And
that's a little freaky.
If they're cannibals, I would want nothing to do with them.
Well, that is some of the legends about giants, and more like mythology or fantasy tales, is that they were cannibals
Oh, exactly.
A lot of them.
Yeah. Yeah, like in the Greek Odyssey when they landed on the island with the Cyclops, and he was supposed to be like 10 feet tall.
Yeah.
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 Dispose of the witnesses.
Yeah, they're supposed to be all throughout. Cause I know like Kydonia and some Greek islands, they're infamous for giants in like the, what do you call it, like the Bronze Age and the, like you know, like in early Greek mythology, they were famous for giant sightings over there in the islands.
Mhm.
They actually made a lot of their stories and everything.
Oh yeah. I know Tennessee is actually another hot spot to find these bones at. And they said they actually found an ancient fortification that contained these skeletons. They said they actually thought it was some kind of rock quarry, but it was actually a fort built inside the side of some cliff. And I guess it was some kind of like medieval age city, I guess you could call it. Or just fortification, yeah.
Well, then again, like I said, because people think they're like a subhuman race, you know, like there were Neanderthals and there's other types of humans that were killed off throughout history.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's just another type of that, you know?
Well, I was thinking they lived normal lives like we did, so it makes sense. But,
well, no, I know, because there's the possibility that there are regular people that grow to be huge statures, but like if you're saying like some had like flat heads and stuff, like to prove that they're like either have some kind of deformity or that there really is like a different race.
Yeah, I know. I don't even know what the difference between the flat heads and the round heads are. I'm assuming that the flathead ones weren't as smart.
Maybe not.
But in 1833 in California, actually, they said some soldiers were digging a giant ditch in California, and they found a skeleton that was 12 feet tall. But this one was wearing armor that was made out of carved shells that had stone axes, Bronze Age style, and Iron Age. They said it had other artifacts that surrounded the skeleton. They said it had double rows of upper and lower teeth, and the other one that I was telling you only had lower teeth that were double. They said that the body was secretly buried when local Indians came upset about the remains that people were uncovering it. But what was weird about this one, like I was saying, is it actually had armor. And it actually had axes and arrows and that sort of thing.
That is cool because, like, Native Americans, you don't hear about them wearing armor, really. They wear, like, leather and bare-chested. But they didn't really wear much, like, armor.
Well, that proves that these people were some sort of fighting people, because...
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all...
So they all have... Because some of them have weapons and stuff. Other ones were said that they got warrior burials and Christian burials. And they gave them tombs as if they were important people. And, of course, there's the fort.
Yeah, it kind of gives it away that they were warriors.
What'd you say?
So that kind of gives it away that they were warriors, the fortress.
Yeah.
I don't think some random tall guy is going to go, let's just make a random fortress here for no reason.
It's said that in Illinois they came across 7 acres of these bodies again that were 7 and 8 feet tall. And in Virginia, they actually found some kind of, at a market, outside market, they were selling the jawbone of one of these giant people, which was kind of bizarre.
Yeah, a little bit.
I guess Lauren Coleman ended up coming across this and writing a book on it. I'm not really sure what the book is called, but I know that I just seen a picture of it and got this information from him. That'd be pretty trippy, actually. But like I was saying, most of these bodies aren't complete. Most of them are missing parts, but I guess there's only about 5 or 10 of these bodies that are actually like over 50%. But if you're looking at the pictures, just the skull is about as big as a man's torso on some of these bodies.
Dang.
And the stone axe, just this one guy is standing next to a stone axe, and it could have him standing on top of his head, and he still wouldn't reach the top of the axe. That's how big some of this stuff is. And something else I'd like to point out is over in Utah, where they have these dinosaur prints down in these lake beds, they actually have some of these giant human footprints next to these giant dinosaur prints, which proves that these people did live along with the dinosaurs.
Wow, that's neat.
Could the footprints just be after the dinosaurs, or are they supposed to be from the same time period?
They came at the same time period within like a couple hundred years or something. I'm not really sure what the date is, but we're going to talk about that on our next show. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that was next week's topic, is humans living amongst dinosaurs.
Yeah, our next radio show next week is going to be humans living along dinosaurs, because we've been getting some requests for that. I'll talk more on that a little bit later. But anyways, on a different outside market in 1951, they found a skull, a rib bone, and a shin bone were actually found, the height of over 8 feet tall. Just the rib bone and the skull, I'm guessing, were. Yeah, I misworded that. The body was said to have been 8 foot tall. But my question is, who would buy that?
Freak show people.
Yeah.
Well, but what's kind of interesting too is how you said like not most of them aren't even like complete.
Mhm.
Well, that's pretty weird though, because like the more they like, you said there's like how many complete bodies? Like a couple bodies that are complete.
Well, there's about 20 or 30 findings in the world, I would say, but there's only about 5 to 10 of those bodies are actually complete or near complete.
Well, it's neat because out of all these fossils, they keep saying they have like the double rows of teeth, which, like, how could you get that all throughout the different areas,
Well, some of them have double rows, some don't, which proves that there's over 2 different types, or they're 2 different species or subspecies.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Because, well, then they've had to have actually like migrated and stuff.
Man.
All in these different areas.
And another place where they always come across these are vineyards for some reason. Vineyards and just anywhere where they're doing farming and plowing. And it said that in this one field he was plowing and he actually came across one of these skeletons, and it had some weird written language, and he said that he brought this piece of rock or stone, whatever it was, to the local laboratory, and they said that they analyzed it, and it was actually related to the Sioux language, the Cherokee Sioux language. And they said that the Cherokee Sioux actually had a legend based on this. Me being stupid, I didn't write down what the legend was, or I don't recall what it was. But whatever it means that they could have migrated out east, I guess, and maybe just due to adaptations they couldn't survive as good as the normal people could. I'm not really sure. So, I don't know.
Very interesting stuff, though. Because it's neat, because like at first time I heard it, I thought, yeah, right, why would there be giant humans living? But sure enough, there is like giant bodies and pictures of these bodies too. You got to talk about the really awesome ones.
I will. But it says skeletons of a race of beings much larger than the average human were told in Ohio in 1858. And they said that recently that they started going over these stories, and then they said that this was actually an ancient Indian burial ground where these people are supposedly buried. They're trying to get permission to go out there to go look for it. I know, I'm waiting to see if they go out there now. I think it'd be pretty awesome if they found it.
Yeah.
Because science is barely now starting to deal with this sort of thing, and they're barely now starting to give light to other theories that Darwinism might not be plausible, or I don't really know. Maybe it's just some extraterrestrial-like, which is what some people think it is. But in 1876, they found some more of these mounds. These ones had extra vertebrae, more than the average person would have. So basically, these people all have some kind of
deformity.
I don't know if I'd call it deformities or if I'd call them similarities. I mean, if these things have more vertebrae than the average person, well, obviously they would, or just oversized vertebrae. I don't know a whole lot about that sort of thing, but
yeah, me neither.
But, and here's my favorite one. They said between 1877 and 1977, they found a giant skull that was unearthed originally, And they said over the years they started digging and digging more and more, and they said that they found 2 bodies of humans that were 25 to 30 feet tall. And they actually have pictures of this on Google if you guys are interested. I thought it was too hard to believe a 30-foot tall person until I looked at it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. They have the pictures and everything.
Of what, a skeleton or what?
Yeah. Yeah, skeletons, like, they were over 25 to 30 feet tall. Like, that is really giant.
I know there's this picture of, it's like a giant skeleton and people digging it up, but I thought that was a Photoshop picture. That's not the one you guys are talking about, is it?
No, because some of them are Photoshop, but most of them aren't actually, because it depends on where you go. Because some of them are on official museum websites and things like that, and those ones are most plausible, I guess you could say. But there's also a lot of bizarre ones. Sorry, I'm reading what some people are writing up. We have somebody right now that's trying to ask us about the structural differences in these people, and if we think that could be why these things died out.
You mean like the physical characteristics, or just like the differences in their tombs, or what?
They're asking about they said structural differences. They said like how they're built, like the double rows of teeth and things like that, or how tall they are.
Well, if they needed double rows of teeth, that goes to prove that they were like, they might have eaten a lot of food to try to sustain themselves.
Yeah, maybe they just started living in areas where there wasn't enough food and they died out over time. Because that sounds pretty reasonable if you ask me. Because if you figure, when the Cherokee Sioux, if they traveled with these people and they moved out west, I guess it would be harder for these people to survive in the harsher climate.
Yeah, and with less food and stuff.
Yeah. But I know, like I was saying, some people think that they're extraterrestrial. I don't really seem to think so. But anyways, we're going to take a quick commercial break really quick, and when we get back, we are going to finish up this topic, and going to go over our next topic, which is on the government's Philadelphia project. And you're listening to Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Radio.
Make sure to visit our website for news and updates at freewebs.com/BFP team. This is Archangel, and you're listening to BFP Radio.
Did you kill a hooker?
What's the matter with you? You don't act like the other chickens do. You wear a disguise to look like human guys, but you're not a man, you're a chicken boo.
Hello, I'm Mr. Ed. A horse is a horse, of course, and no one can talk to a horse, of course. That is, of course, unless the horse is the famous Mr. Ed. Go right to the source and ask the horse. He'll give you the answer that you endorse. He's always on a steady course. Talk to Mr. Ed. People yakety-yak the street and waste your time a day. But Mr. Ed will never speak unless he has something to say. A horse is a horse, of course, and this one will talk till his voice is hoarse. You never heard of a talking horse? Well, listen to this.
I am Mr. Ed.
And we are back on Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Radio. You just heard us talk about giant humans that have been discovered and some of the similarities and differences between them. We'll return to that topic shortly before we have to end the show tonight. we do some open lines and take some callers. And on the show tonight, we have our friends Becky, and then we have our team members. I'm King Sasquatch, and we have Brent, also known as Archangel, and Tim, King Gray. And I'll have Brent or Tim talk about the Philadelphia Project and a little recap.
Okay, well, basically in I think it was 1940 or 1943, they hooked a destroyer up. They took an old destroyer from the Navy. They replaced its gun turrets with giant generators to try to either render the ship invisible or try to make it invisible to radar of some sort. But anyways, it was just, all you got to know is it's an experiment that went wrong and some bad stuff happened, and it's actually considered paranormal.
Now let's you just drop them pants.
Drop?
Just take them right off.
Okay.
You there, Brent?
Yeah.
So I'm going to give a quick little recap from what I read. Basically, in the fall of 1943, the U.S. Navy destroyer was made invisible and teleported from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to Norfolk, Virginia, an incident known as the Philadelphia Experiment, also known as Project Rainbow. Records in the Operational Archives Branch of the Naval Historic Center have been repeatedly searched, but no documents have been located. Like, basically, they're top secret, or they're claiming this event never happened, like a cover-up. But witnesses of this and people that were actually there have come forward by this time. And there's a couple of different theories on what could have happened and what did happen, and I'll go over those. But anyways, I'm gonna start on my work that I did. According to the accounts, it was thought possible that some version of this theory to bend light, that Einstein's theory to bend light around an object so it become invisible. The Navy tried to do this basically with the ship to make it invisible for warfare. And another version in the theory say that researchers were preparing magnetic and gravitational measurements of the seafloor to detect anomalies supposedly based on Einstein's attempts to understand gravity. I'm like spacing out here. But anyways, supposedly a destroyer escort, the USS Eldridge, was fitted with some equipment from the naval yards in Philadelphia. Testing began in the summer of '43 and was successful to a limited degree. One test on July 22nd resulted from an Eldridge being rendered almost completely invisible, with some witnesses reporting a greenish fog in its place. I'm going to tell the general story, and then we're going to go back to some of the details here. Anyways, however, crew members complained of severe nausea afterwards, and at one point, the experiment was altered at the request of the Navy, with a new objective being invisibility solely on radar instead of just the physical object itself. The theory continues that the equipment was not properly recalibrated, because I'm guessing this was their first test, but in spite of this experiment, it was performed again on October 28th. This time, the Eldridge not only became entirely invisible, but actually vanished from the area in a flash of blue light, according to the accounts. The U.S. Naval Base in Norfolk, Virginia, 250 miles away, reported sighting the Eldridge offshore. And then all of a sudden it vanished from their sight, an accidental teleportation, and traveled back to Pennsylvania in 10 seconds. So basically this thing went 250 miles and back in 10 seconds.
Wow.
And many versions of the story actually include serious side effects to the crew. Crew members would have been physically fused to the bulkheads, suffered from mental conditions, or would have been vanished into thin air completely, never to be seen again. It's also claimed that the crew may have been subjected to brainwashing in order to keep the experiment top secret.
Yeah, that's pretty scary, because I've watched dozens of shows on about people being fused to the walls and the ship decks and everything. Like, I guess their bodies actually melted with the walls and stuff, which is kind of scary.
What I thought was kind of weird was the fact that they said that the greenish fog, and with the greenish fog that they described, basically, it's almost the greenish fog or bluish fog that you would think about when people talk about UFOs on a stormy night, or if the UFO were to be taking off and dust was to be kicked up. And some people were saying that they think they might have been trying to test out UFO technology or extraterrestrial technology. What do you think happened, Brent?
I don't know. I don't know much about it, but I think it's interesting that people get fused together because of some government experiment.
Because they said that some people completely vanished, other ones were just found dead on the spot when they came back. But they said there was 20 or so people that were actually found alive, which I thought was...
Yeah, but the funny thing is this is actually the topic me and Brent met, how we became friends, because we were in PE class talking about it.
Oh, yeah.
Back in 10th grade, so this is the very topic why me and Brent became friends.
That's pretty weird.
It is.
What year did you say this happened?
43.
Wait, 43?
Yep.
Yeah, it seems awfully advanced for that time, so the UFO theory, that could be possible.
Yeah.
Well, what they were thinking was they were trying to use alien technology with Einstein's theories in order to make it possible. Which I thought was pretty weird.
Yeah, and another theory is actually, rather than this, because they said it teleported, but some people actually say it may have teleported into the future, I think, right, Joe?
Yeah, some people said that they teleported like 5 years in the future and came back. Pretty much the crew
members. That'd be interesting.
Out of the 20 or 25 people that were left, about half of them said one story, half of them said another. But
yeah, it's hard to
anyways, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the eyewitness accounts. This one's pretty weird. Brent, I got this one specifically for Brent because he's our man when it comes to this stuff. So on January 13th, 1955, Jessup, who's an investigator, received a letter from a man who identified himself as Carlos A. In the letter, Carlos informed Jessup of the Philadelphia experiment, alluding to two poorly sourced contemporary newspaper articles as proof. He also said that he had witnessed the Eldridge disappear and reappear while being aboard the SS Andrew Furyerseth, I guess you could call it, which is a nearby merchant ship in the area at the time. And he further named other people that were on the crew, and he served aboard the Andrew, whatever ship I just said, the Furyerseth. And he claimed to know the fate of some of the other crew members on the Eldridge after the experiment, including one of whom he witnessed disappear in a fight in a bar. And basically what he talks about is the men in black grabbed this man and took him away. But Jessup's investigator applied to this man on a postcard asking for further evidence and collaboration on the story. A reply did come back months later, however. This time the correspondent identified himself as Carl instead of Carlos. Allen said that he could not provide the details for which Jessup was asking, but he implied that he might be able to recall by means of hypnosis. Suspecting that it was a fraud, the investigators discontinued the correspondence. But then he found the return address that was responding to him, and it was found to be an abandoned farmhouse. And the man said he was hiding out from the government in his letters.
Wow.
So basically this guy was running from the government and they were harassing him. And they don't really know what happened to him because the guy stopped corresponding with him.
Well, probably a cover-up, because the government at the time probably wouldn't want that kind of thing leaked out to the other nations at war with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You use me, Skittle! You use me!
But actually, I have heard of that bar scene thing before, where they said right afterwards there were one of the sailors that didn't get harmed by anything. He was in a bar or whatever, he got in a fight with the person, and while they were actually fighting, he fell through a wall or something like that.
That's hot.
But yeah, it's kind of a random thing. I've heard that before. I've watched dozens of shows on it before.
Really?
Yeah, they're always on they used to be on the History Channel a lot.
I haven't really heard about that. Can you talk a little bit about that real quick?
What, anyways, they said the guy was in a bar with a bunch of other guys that were on the ship and survived. But they said they got in a fist fight, and like one of the guys actually fell through a wall, and they never seen him again. They think his body was so like the molecules in his body were so manipulated by the high radioactive, like the energy produced by the boat, that they said like they couldn't stay together completely. So
who the fuck said that?
when he moved around too much, like they think they would become unstable, and that's why he fell through the wall and never seen him again.
What do you mean exactly when you say he fell through the wall? What do you mean?
Like they were fighting, and I guess he got flung against the wall somehow. Like he got thrown into a wall and he fell through.
Like he actually broke into the wall, or he just went through it like, I guess, like a ghost or something?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. He fell through it like a ghost would. He just like fell out, and then people went outside to go see, and they never seen him again. He just wasn't there.
Now that's weird.
It is like. They think because they said other people on the boat just disappeared out of midair and never seen him again. So I think that's what happened to him also. And I know there are other people that were admitted to psych wards, and some people mysteriously died due to natural causes, and were being murdered and stuff by the government. They think. Yeah, nearly every witness was either died on their own or killed by someone. So I think it's one of the first cover-ups, like one of the first major cover-ups of our generation, the modern generation.
Yeah. But
then I know they've also tried to. Didn't they try to follow up on it before too, Jared? Like the project.
On which one? The Montauk Project?
Yeah, they tried to follow up on the Philadelphia project.
Yeah, they did do a follow-up on this. It was called the Montauk Project. I don't really know a lot about that. We're going to save that for another show. But to make a long story short, the government is supposedly still experimenting with this. They said that they got it down to a 90% success rate, but they haven't revealed it yet, supposedly. That's what I was reading earlier. I have a long story here, which is probably one of the most in-depth ones I could find, because I actually was talking to somebody that's talked to this man online for a brief little while. And basically, I'll give you the breakdown real quick. There's 176 sailors on the Eldridge, and immense generators along with Tesla coils, electron tubes, and many miles of thick-inch cables laid throughout the raceways of the ship. And there was a man in Cunningham who was on the boat. That's his last name. He wouldn't say his first name. Well, he did to the other reporter, but they wouldn't tell me. But they were preparing to pull up anchor from the docks in the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. The sailors seemed anxious about their next adventure at sea. It was shortly thereafter, under the cloak of darkness, this is him talking, that we had started our movement down to Delaware River on one small scientific research vessel following closely behind. As we moved out to sea, we heard and felt unusual humming sound that was being emitted from the 4 powerful generators that we had recently mounted onto the ship. They were slowly switched to higher frequencies. As the vibration becoming increasingly stronger and stronger, routine work on the Eldridge came to a complete halt as we now stood on the end. As all of our hair stood on end, we all felt a sense of apprehension with the uncommon electrical sensations followed as they flowed through the ship. Some men began to shake with uncontrollable fear, while many others were looking cautiously about their surroundings, not knowing what to think. While others tried to find comfort in their morning cup of coffee, for even the most fearless men on the ship, panic was set in as soon as they switched the generators onto full. And they were told to stay clear of the cables that were laid out along the outer walls of the ship for some reason. I'm not really sure why. I don't know a whole lot about that kind of thing. Unknown to the sailors, who were trained only in the operation of the naval ship for the first time, were trying to conduct a scientific feat. What were you saying?
Oh, nothing. Go ahead.
Basically, what the guy's saying is the crew wasn't fit to be holding this experiment. Like, they weren't trained. But just prior to dawn, while out at sea, we rendered the USS Eldridge invisible by switching the generators on full strength. The men were now experiencing horrors beyond their beliefs. They were not prepared for what was going to come. For us, our average minds carved and cracked when we switched on the generator. When they hit full power, it created a strong electromagnetic field which totally overcame and engulfed us with a heavy fog or mist, which was bluish-green, which is exactly what the other guy was saying. But you got to imagine he came forward about 10 years before this guy did, which proved that the other guy was telling the truth, or somewhat was telling the truth. And it was at that precise moment that I sensed myself being shook violently from the strong vibration. At the same time, I noted the ship disappearing from around me and below me. With a generator to my back, all of a sudden, as if in slow motion, I felt tremendous impact in which I sensed my entire body being propelled outwards into hundreds of fragmented pieces. With this impact was a brilliant flash of light, so intense that it was not only blinding but consuming. Piercing sound forced me to the ship's deck, covering my ears with my hands in a desperate attempt to relieve the pain. Now bleeding from my mouth, nose, and ears, nothing seemed to help but help the discomfort that was experiencing me, leaving me with only one thought and repeatedly recalling and saying to myself, I wish I were dead. Before I go on with the story, I'm going to go over a recap. They go out to sea, they switch on these generators that are supposed to make the ship go invisible, and a green fog goes all around the ship, and the ship starts disappearing. But eventually, these anomalies subsided, and being extremely disoriented, time as I knew it did not seem to exist. I felt stuck in place, unable to move and find the field of energy of total darkness. I began to realize that something had gone drastically wrong as the Tesla had foreseen. Finally, collecting my wits and not allowing fear to become an overwhelming factor, I literally had to use my entire will and physical strength to break loose from the field of energy that encased it. This is where it gets weird right here. Basically, he's in charge of switching on one of the generators, the fourth generator, and the ship's going crazy and people are starting to scream and basically utter chaos, and he's trying to shut off the generator. But basically, he says there were those who were in total panic, some consumed with fire, and others seemed to glow almost radioactive. I had to reach the pilot room to locate the captain of the ship in order to access damages, but he too was stuck. It was although time was necessarily shut down in the generators to unplug the operation. The entire ship was transparent like that of a dark red-colored gelatin. Therefore, I was not only able to see through the walls of the ship, but I was able to move through them as well. In an attempt to solely out of desperation to stop the generators, I went to reach for the switch, but there was no substance. Which means, as the fragments were coming from one place to another, he went to hit the switch, and basically he went through the switch as if it wasn't there. I know I heard Brent talking about this a while back, I think. Like you and Tim?
Okay.
Like, basically, everything was going crazy, but after we had rematerialized some 24 hours later out at sea, the scene was chaotic. I was taken off the Eldridge by a stretcher and immediately placed under medical aboard the U.S. Naval medical ship that was in the area. With the sun shining brightly, I remember looking back at the horrific scene, the Eldridge still smoldering from the fire that had erupted. Naval personnel were running about and working frantically to get things under control. Many of the men that were part of the rescue mission were overtaken by what they saw, and some became ill from the stench of bodies and refused to clean up. Things were so bad that some men from other ships even refused to board the Eldridge. The USS Eldridge was no longer seaworthy, extremely radioactive and unstable. And of the 181 men that started the day, only 21 had survived. 40 men were confirmed dead as a result of radiation exposure, burns, electrocution, and fright. It's like some people were really scared to death. 27 of these 40 men embedded within the structure of the ship. But who, basically, like we were saying, some of the men were embedded into the ship. But in not all cases, some of these men were still alive. Mercifully, some were shot in the head using a standard military pistol, yet others were kept alive to do laboratory research. Lastly, the remaining 120 men that were unaccounted for, they just disappeared, and they were just gone. Dang, that's a long story, I know. But basically,
yeah, it's one of the scariest things ever.
Some of the men were fused to the boat, and they had to finish them off.
That's sad, though, because they joined the Navy not knowing that was going to happen to them.
Well, like they were saying, a lot of those people weren't even fit to be doing that.
Well, I know, and there's a movie about it, too.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen the movie. Have you seen it, Brent?
No.
But it's just one of my, like it's a sad topic, but it's actually one of my favorites to talk about because it's actually believable because they have so many, like they have some really good witnesses and stuff. They could even name certain things, you know, like other regular people couldn't name if they weren't in the Navy.
Well, that was done by a guy named Cunningham, and he actually wrote a book on that. We have 29 minutes left in the show, and when we get back, we are going to continue on with the topic, and you're listening to Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Radio.
Hey, this is Archangel. Tune in every Sunday from 8 to 10 for a new episode of Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Team Radio. All callers are welcome. The call-in number is 914-803-4053.
Do you have a case for the Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Investigators? Do you have some sort of cryptid or ghost haunting your home? Well, you are in luck. The Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Investigators can help you out. Just go check out our website, www.freewebs.com/BFPteam, and fill out a form, and we will be with you in a moment. Or you could go on to our forums, bfpteam.yuku.com, and we will help you. Again, this is King Sasquatch, and...
Hey, Ernie, we play piano, okay?
I didn't know you could play the piano, Cookie Monster.
Oh, sure.
Oh.
C is for cookie, that's good enough for me. C is for cookie, that's good enough for me. Oh, C is for cookie, that's good enough for me. Oh, cookie, 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 start with C. Everybody, C is for cookie, that's good enough for me. C is for cookie, that's good enough for me.
Once upon a time in Toontown, there was a cat that had it all. Fortune and fame, top of the game, up until he hit the wall. Now he's a cop. He's back in a fight. Stop the clock. Hope he gets here on time. Bumpers. Wherever you are.
And we are back on the Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Radio.
Yeah, this is some more of our new old commercials. And
I like the one you guys have of the voodoo song. That was pretty cool.
Oh, you mean the one with Brent?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But, yep, we were talking about the Philadelphia experiment when we went away, and some people think that, like I was saying, the Montauk experiment, some people think that there's actually a third and fourth experiments that are either unknown or are being conducted right now. I can see it going on myself, because we like to experiment with weird stuff like that.
Exactly, and the government's not just going to test it once and forget about it.
Yeah.
Especially if it means turning something invisible.
I don't know, Tommy. It might be pretty scary in there.
But yeah, Tim, somebody was bringing up an interesting point, and they wanted to know, do you think that there was a difference between the blue fog that some men described and the green fog that other guys said? Like one was maybe returning and one was leaving?
I don't know. Like, it could be the same thing, but maybe, like for example, you know when certain fires, when they're hotter than others, some are redder or orange than others?
Yeah.
Maybe it all depends on the high frequency of the electromagnetic stuff. You know, maybe the green is, like, not so bad and the blue is, like, way higher, I don't know, or opposite.
I know one good point that somebody's asking me right now is, do you think that maybe that there was a way that they could have, but maybe the generators are too strong, or maybe they should have shut off the generators? Or do you think maybe, I don't know, do you think that they had a set course to do that, or do you think that it was just a fluke?
Oh, I'm sure they had it planned. You know, like, I'm sure they had it all ready to do that and everything.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth, maybe they just got these people that didn't know about, remember he said a lot of them were unqualified to do it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the thing. I was going to say maybe a lot of them were just, like, you know, human guinea pigs in a way.
Like, here I am.
Here's Johnny!
But no, maybe some of them, like, you know, were just used as test subjects. Because I don't think they'd use their highly trained guys to just kill off like that.
Yeah.
They've never tested it before.
Well, a good point also that someone was bringing up was, do you think that they could have went farther than that if they wanted? You think they could have went over to Europe maybe, or you think they could have went to the opposite?
Oh, I'm sure they could have went a lot farther. It's just this is the first time they've ever tried it, and they're only. And again, you even said it yourself. They were successful, but in a very limited way. And plus, it was just a destroyer. It's not exactly the biggest of military ships.
Yeah.
If they would have tried on like a battleship or aircraft carrier, oh my God, I'm sure they probably would have went so much farther.
Hell, it would have went berserk if that thing got blown up. Like an army of them. I don't know, Brent, do you think that they meant to do that, or do you think it was just an accident that they accidentally disappeared and went way over there?
I don't know. If they wanted, like, to, make it disappear, why would it? It probably was an accident that it appeared over there, because, I don't know.
Yeah, they tried to test one thing and probably had two different things happen. They had what they wanted, like it was somewhat invisible, and then they also teleported.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a little bit of both. I'm just interested. I just want to find out what happened in the follow-up ones of it. Like the second one and the third.
Yeah, the Montauk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got to research that for another show.
Well, something else I'd like to point out is some people are actually saying they've seen Einstein himself was on the docks that same morning, right before it took off. So.
Well, if they're using his theories, I'm sure he could have been like refreshing them, like exactly what to try to, like, what they should be looking out for and everything.
Yeah.
Were you saying something, Brent?
No.
Oh, yeah, it's unbelievable how many people don't actually know about the Philadelphia experiment. Well, I've known about it for about maybe 6-7 years now, but I even have a book. I have 2 books on it actually in my room.
I didn't know about it.
Yeah, it's not well known, but it's somewhat known, Yeah. And it is kind of paranormal because it breaks the realm of like the ordinary.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird story.
Yeah, I think it's sad though how those sailors were like melted to the walls and stuff. That'd be horrible.
Yeah, I said some people went crazy and stuff.
I tell you, I can't stand it. I am going.
Well, then they said there were some that were infused in the walls. Not all of them were, fully encased. Some just had like their hands in the walls or their arms and legs in the walls. They said those were the ones that like they kept under secrecy and they put them in like crazy hospitals just to like hide them, like so they wouldn't speak out. They just think they're crazy. Because after all, 1940s, it's not every day some sailor goes, yeah, I was fused to a wall, He said, what's the problem? Yeah.
But
and plus, the war was perfect for like the cover-up too, because it was during World War II. So it wouldn't have been in the newspapers and stuff.
Something else that I'd like to bring up was, can you imagine what they would do? How they would explain that if Einstein got fused to the wall himself? He went. Like really?
That'd be.
You'd have to say, yeah, there was a secret experiment, and the greatest mind in our country was kind of fused to a wall. I don't know.
It's okay though, we survived. There you go. It's okay. He's still alive. He's just kind of mentally insane.
Well, they said some of those people went under scientific experiments and laboratory research after they were fused to the walls. I don't know about you, but I think if I was fused to a wall, I don't think I would want someone poking me and stuff.
Yeah, I don't think they really had a choice. Like I said, that's what makes me think they're more of like human guinea pigs in a way.
Someone's asking us right now, do you or Brent know if they involved microwaves at all, if that's what the generators did?
You know what? They just said they were they just said they were giant generators, like the kind that create power. That's all they did. That's all they say. I don't know what type they use. I just know they said they were like the biggest generators of the day, though.
Because they say that would make sense though, because they said that people getting burned and going crazy and all that sort of thing.
It It could be. I don't know. I just know they were like some of the biggest generators of the day. I know they were custom built for just to put on the ship.
I don't know myself what exactly they were, because they said that they didn't really tell the crew what they were. Have you heard anything about that, Brent? Like, do you know what the generators did at all? Or?
Generators, a generator is pretty much like an alternator on a car, where it charges, like it runs off something and it gives power back, but pretty much it has its own electromagnetic field, like what you were saying.
Yeah.
And like on an alternator, the electromagnetic field's probably like 3 times as big as it. But on one of those, like on a ship, that's probably pretty freaking huge.
Yeah, because it'd be like the size of our damn house.
Well, they had the placement of the generators specifically where they had the turrets on the ship.
Exactly, and you know how big those are on it.
And they said that the only people that survived were the people that were located around the turrets mostly. So whatever it was, the people that were too far away from the generators were screwed.
It's people with a dirty mind that think like that.
But and he says, do you think that maybe they're testing out some kind of system to jam the radars of other ships?
That's exactly what they were probably trying to do, because I know they said they were trying to become either invisible or be invisible through radar and sonar.
Hey, Brent.
Yeah.
Mr. H from our favorite team's listening right now. They're in our thing.
Oh God.
Like, no joke. Look, Tim. But anyways. But basically, but yeah.
Wow. That's interesting.
Hi, Jason. As you know, Brent, as you guys have known, we are really good friends with this one team. Becky knows.
Yeah, he's listening to our radio show right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
he's on.
The H-Meister?
Yeah. The gorilla, the big gorilla guy.
Why? I wonder why he's listening.
I don't know. I swear to God, Brandon, Jeremy showed me he is.
His picture's on there.
Nice.
Chicken Boo, what's the matter with you? You don't act like the other chickens do. You wear a disguise to look like human guys, but you're not a man, you're a chicken Boo.
Okay.
So he has an account on Blog Talk Radio then?
Yep, he has his own radio show.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't know, but I don't really care either.
We have somebody right now that's saying, if you're standing underneath a radio tower, the signal gets projected better to that area. So they're saying, do you think maybe it was because the flawed that they put the generators in the wrong areas? Maybe they didn't spread them out enough, or they were too close.
I don't know. All I know is they said it was so intense. Like they said, you heard yourself that people like when we were researching, said some people's ears were just like their eardrums exploded because it was so the humming was so loud.
Well, that Cunningham guy, he said that it was his ears were bleeding and ringing really bad. He said.
Yeah, it's just so powerful. I'm sure because they're so close to each other.
Oh, come on! Don't be a baby.
But another thing that I would like to point out is, if they use Einstein's theory that they use revolving lasers to try to bend light, do you think these generators might have been the thing they're trying to make the lasers bend the light?
It might be. I don't know if they were too into lasers and stuff back then though.
Because I know now that they are testing out stealth technology. And like they showed on the History Channel a couple of times, we actually do have boats. Like stealth technology, yeah, you guys all know about that.
Yeah, we should research this. So it's Jared, what's that professor who's like the genius with Einstein's his theories and everything nowadays?
Yeah, I don't recall his name, but yeah, he'll know about it.
Yeah, that'd be.
Tim, I forgot something. I forgot what the guys in the ship were. The Iron Man.
Wow.
You can barely hear that.
I don't know, corny.
But no, I lost my train of thought.
Oh yeah, you know, like I said, both the topics tonight are really interesting because they're both plausible because there's evidence to support it. You know what I mean? Because, like with the Philadelphia experiment, like I'm sure there's no way in hell that they're just some random guy's gonna want to go test it out himself. But you know, if they have the evidence and stuff to support it, like you know, like by the eyewitnesses and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not just that. The survivors, they know about the port in Pennsylvania and Norfolk or whatever, Virginia. At the time during the war, there's supposed to be secret military bases. So how would they know about that? You know, in like the 40s, unless they were part of the Navy.
Yeah.
So it goes to even solidify their chances even more.
Right now, our friend just wrote us a message, bro.
Who cares?
But anyways, we have 13 minutes left in the show, and when we get back, we're going to answer a couple last-minute questions, and then we're going to recap and talk about some team news real quick. And you are listening to Bigfoot's Pad Paranormal Radio.
Think of all the animals you've ever heard about, like rhinoceroses and tigers, cats and minks. There are lots of funny animals in all this world, but have you ever seen a panther that is pink? Pink! A panther that is positively pink. Well, here he is, Pink Panther, the Pink Panther. Everybody loves a panther that's pink. He really is a groovy cat, and he's a gentleman, a scholar, he's a acrobat. He's in the Pink Panther, the rink-eating panther. And it's as plain as your nose that he's the one and only truly original panther, pink from head to toe.
Super team extraordinaire, freakazoid, freakazoid, runs around in underwear, freakazoid, freakazoid, guess he's Washington DC, freakazoid, freakazoid, and have something better on TV, freakazoid, freakazoid, he's crazy so below you, get massive junction coding, next from sleep or sleeping Freud, freakazoid, freakazoid.
Check out Dexter, nerd computer hate, when surfing on the internet, and what that subscriber's face, he's trying to shoot a freakazoid, he's wrong after the freak, he drives us to the crazy, cause he's a lunatic.
It's so big, it's a freakaland, freakazoid.
And we are back on Bigfoot's Pad Paranormal Radio. We've been talking about the giant humans tonight, and we have been talking about the Philadelphia experiment. For those of you who don't know what that is, if you're just tuning in because we've had a couple people come on, basically what it is the government made a whole full battleship, a destroyer actually disappeared from Pennsylvania to Virginia and back in 10 seconds. And along with this phenomenon, there were side effects like people being welded to the sides of these boats and things like that. There was a second experiment, the Montauk Project, which we are actually going to do on an upcoming show. But while we have 10 minutes left, I would like to talk a little bit about what's coming on in the upcoming weeks. Would you like to take hold of this, Tim?
Yeah. Well, next week we're going to be talking about the theory, well, not necessarily theory, but just the evidence supporting that humans may have lived among dinosaurs at one point. Because whether they be like footprints or bones, you know, next to each other and stuff.
Who the fuck said that?
I did. But yeah, and then while we're at it, we also wanted to bring up one of our favorite issues of all time, which we know is going to make you guys laugh, is the Mothman Pervert caller we had a while back. Yeah, we wanted to just bring him and give him a special hello because that was pretty good. That was awesome. Yeah, and then there was the peanut butter and jelly guy, and
Yeah, that one was great.
Sorry, what were you saying?
I was just saying that was great, the peanut butter guy.
Oh, yeah. We got to give
He'll have to stay away from peanut butter now.
Oh, I know. Oh, yeah, we are actually supposed to not eat peanut butter now because they're having a recall. Are they still doing that? Yeah. I think it says it's going to take effect for like another month. But, oh, yeah, and another news today, parts of Obama's staff are being jailed for corruption already, and they've only been in office for 2 weeks. Interesting stuff. Yeah. Ranges from tax fraud to just fraud of all sorts.
Sleepers for fat people.
Pretty interesting. But we have somebody right now that's asking us if we think that these giant humans could possibly be Atlanteans. I don't know. I don't really know about that. You and Brent know more about that than I do. You know what? I don't know. Atlantis may have existed at one point, but I highly doubt they were like 8 feet tall, probably, because they said, like, the ancient Greeks supposedly fought wars with them, and they said they were just average like them, but who knows?
I like children.
That was creepy.
Yeah, a little bit. Falcor, Brent? Oh, yeah, Falcor. Did you ever see the Family Guy when Peter is writing him?
Yeah, that one was on, like, last night, I think.
Yeah, where he's like, "You're too heavy, buddy."
You know what? That makes me mad.
But yeah. Yeah, and I'm taking a couple more questions. They said that, do you think these people lived amongst the dinosaurs like they were saying? Because they were saying maybe that's why they were extra tall, so that they could defend themselves against these dinosaurs, or maybe in times how people grow and shrink over time. They're saying maybe that it was just more drastic back then. Exactly. It may have been because the climates were a lot. I know a lot of climates were different and stuff. I mean, times were tough, so it could have been. Like the Neanderthals, they were big people for this. You know, they had big body mass for the cold and everything to hold in heat. Yeah. And now they sent me a picture of a guy with a hammer hitting a dinosaur. Oh, yeah, what I wanted to say earlier. But yeah, Brent, doesn't the Bigfoots Pad Paranormal fully endorse Falcor?
Oh yeah, Falcor all the way.
But yeah. Never seen the movie, but have we endorsed him still, huh, Brent?
Oh yeah.
Sorry about that, guys. We have a couple of minutes extra, and we're just doing a little bit of open lines and stuff right now. Yeah. But no, by all means, like, I do think giant humans, they obviously did exist because we have their bones. And especially since they have their burial mounds and armor on and stuff too. That's kind of weird. Well, what was weird was some of those bodies were found in like Tennessee and Oklahoma and stuff, and they had shells for armor, like giant shells and stuff.
Really, in Oklahoma?
Yeah, which
where
I
I'm
think
at.
is kind of bizarre, because where would they get that from? They would have had to have been by the coast somewhere. Exactly. Hey, Becky, start digging in your backyard. Maybe you'll find one.
Maybe.
What if Becky found like a hammer that was like 20 feet tall or something? You better call us first.
So I have a question. You say that all these, I guess, skeletons have been dug up of giant people. Has anyone in the modern times ever reported seeing someone over 20 feet tall? Has anyone ever reported any modern giant sightings?
Well, I haven't heard of any modern. The last ones I heard of were in the 1800s. And
okay.
Like the guy that lived amongst those Indians got shot in the back of the head, that was in the late 1800s. Or they carbon dated one of the skeletons that I was telling you about that was in Turkey. And they said it only dated back 250 years ago. But basically they either live in the hills or they live in these strange environments where not very many people live. Like over here, basically, they either live in somewhere in South America, but the main batch are in North America. And the Euphrates River area actually has a lot more, which kind of has nothing to do with the same climate that's over here. Seriously. I'm trying to relate that somehow, but it didn't work out. Well, but then again, like I said, there's Goliath in the Bible. He was from the Middle East at the time, so anything's possible. Yeah.
We have 4 minutes left in the show, and we are going to cut it short here for tonight. Next week's show, like we were saying, is going to be on humans living alongside dinosaurs, and then we're going to do living dinosaurs towards the end of the show. And those of you who are interested are more than welcome to call in. The call-in number is 914-803-4053. And our website, in case you're interested, is freewebs.com/BFPteam. And I am Jeremy, and I'd like to thank you for listening, and I'll let Becky and my teammates say their goodbyes.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Have a good night, guys.